Welcome to Conversations with Your Higher Self. I am Alleson Gregary, and today we are here with Rosie Medina, who is joining us from the Andes, and she is currently in the Sacred Valley. And boy, I want to hear about your awakening journey, Rosie, but I really want to hear about what's going on in the Sacred Valley right now first. Share what you're doing there, what you're going through, experiencing, all that neat stuff.
Thank you so much, dear sister. It's such a pleasure to be here with you, and especially being able to share this moment together from such a beautiful space that I'm in right now. I'm in Peru. I'm in the Andes, Pisac, which is a beautiful area, and specifically within the Sacred Valley. This area is full of magic and high vibes, beautiful souls, so many happenings here. I have been wanting to come here for several years. Typically, when I've traveled to Peru, I go to the jungle and where I do my dietas and work with the plant medicine and sit with grandmother, which is ayahuasca and yahe and so many other names by many indigenous people in South America and beyond. So I've always just gone there to do my work, and then I'm in and I'm out and I'm trying to integrate and doing that. This opportunity presented because it's been something that's been really calling to my heart as well. Being Colombian and Cuban, this really speaks to my ancestry. It speaks to the work that I'm doing as far as coming here. And, I've recently stepped away from being a nurse and really taking some stillness and moments to see what is in my highest alignment and the highest alignment of humanity, which is what I'm here in service of. And a lot of that has to do with going to places like this and receiving the downloads, having an opportunity to expand, to just be in stillness, to be with the earth, with the elements, to be able to taste the local flavors, to communicate and make connections with people that have direct connection to my ancestry as Colombian and Cuban. So coming to Peru feels like coming home because Peru and Colombia are very close. I do travel to Colombia. However, I've not made these type of connections so deeply and definitively as I have coming here for almost 8 years now.
Wow.
And so, there's a lot, there's so much, and it's still coming in,
What a beautiful journey. Now, share with everybody a little bit. You were a nurse, and you have since left the traditional nursing field, correct? And
Yes.
what was the impetus for that? What pulled you away and brought you to where you are now?
Yes, I have been feeling for a very long time that as I've had my awakenings, which have been several through my life. I mean, as people on a spiritual path, we don't just have one awakening. It happens as a gradual process, at least for me and for many people like me. So my awakenings began at a very early age, and it became like a really concentrated sequence of awakenings as I was working in healthcare. And I've been in healthcare for 24 years.
Wow.
Starting out as a respiratory therapist, and then going on and getting my degree in nursing and doing all the things that I wanted to do as a nurse. I mean, I've made it to the top of like the most coveted jobs as nurses. I was a flight nurse. I was a supervisor. I ran programs. I did education, so I did all the things I really wanted to do. And then when I reached that point, I was like, okay, this is it. And there was something within me that just kept beckoning, like this whole time being a nurse. And I started stepping away from being a direct employee, being a contractor, having more time off, and seeing how that felt, and dropped in. COVID hit, and everything, like the whole game changed. Like it was a mess. It was just, nobody knew what to do. We were just throwing everything to patients and not being really conscious about the implications of what was happening. And then I began to really ask my higher self, what's going on? And then through my medicine journeys, through my integration processes from plant medicine and connecting to my galactic heritage, I was being shown things that would just completely blow your mind.
Like what?
Like there was things happening in the hospital that was like already shocking, as it was being a nurse and having to deal with the level of stress and the burdens that it really is to be in that role. Because it's not just we're giving meds, or we're cleaning somebody's poop, or we're trying to save a life, but we're cleaning the rooms, we're being the social worker for the family, we're being the intermediator between all the interdisciplinary teams that deal with the patient, we're the case manager, we're the housekeeper, on and on and on and on. People have no idea like what it really is to work in that role. I am so grateful for those experiences. I don't regret a single moment. I really, really honestly do not, because the wealth of information and all the downloads and all the experiences, the beautiful experiences of assisting somebody into their death process, helping families come to terms with this is not a quality of life as much as I could do. It wasn't always successful, but it was really challenging. And so I began to track what was really happening in the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, all four aspects. And there were so many things that were missing. There were so many gaps. And so I began to like really ask myself, is this really serving my highest good? It was not. I mean, it was filling my bank account, but that doesn't make my world go round. It really doesn't. Yet it's helpful.
Yeah.
However, I just really started experiencing a lot of pain, a lot of physical pain, a lot of emotional pain, a lot of mental pain. And I was just tired of carrying all that around for so long, like lugging it along like a broken piece of luggage. And it just got exhausting and overwhelming. And so I stepped away as I was seeing how we were treating these patients and not treating them spiritually and not treating them holistically. And I saw so many ways that even patients with COVID, how they could actually heal successfully, but it wasn't making the hospitals money. Every single patient that's at all impacted by COVID, even if that was not why they came to the hospital, these places were putting COVID as a cause of death on the death certificates so that they can make money. And this is not anything like this. I'm not whistleblowing. This is very common knowledge. Yep. You can look it up on the internet. I was very, involved with that process because the nurses are the ones who call the coroner and report. When I called the coroner, I didn't say, I would say, okay, yes, COVID, but I would say their cause of death was sepsis. Their cause of death was stroke. Their cause of death was multiple organ, dysfunction syndrome. Okay. Or something like that. I would actually put what the cause of death was, because COVID doesn't cause death.
Well, it's like, excuse me, like the flu. So many people die from the flu for years and years.
Yeah.
Right. And all of a sudden, this comes in and it's like the big killer. And it's like, but every year the flu would take people who had comorbidity, whatever that word is. Mm-hmm. And, if you were susceptible, you would be in trouble if you got the flu. Isn't COVID similar to that?
It is a virus. So COVID is an inorganic frequency, and it is changing. It's constantly changing. Last year, I was doing my rose diet, and the rose was interacting with this frequency to stabilize it, to bring it light, to whatever it was doing. I was taking care of the patients. My plant was doing other things that I'm still not aware of. What it did show me was a lot of things about that. The main killers, I don't like to use that word, but the things that were causing people to die was congestive heart failure, morbid obesity, diabetes.
Not related to COVID.
Correct. So, at the time, it seemed to be like it was targeting African Americans, Asian people, and Hispanics. Okay.
Interesting.
Those were my primary. This is what I'm saying. So those were my primary patients, at least in the region that I was working in, Central California at the time. So if you had any of those even if you were in your 40s or 30s, because people are saying, why are people dying if you're young and you have no history? However, they were 50, 60, 80 pounds. They ate high fatty foods, high carbohydrates, high processed foods, not organic, no greens, Cokes, Sprites, watched mainstream news, didn't walk, didn't have any kind of practice or spiritual practice or anything. So yes, those 30 and 40-year-olds were dying because of their lifestyle. So I was tracking all of this entire time. Nobody was addressing those things. All they were reporting is 40-year-old dies of COVID related, sickness, which is pneumonia, hypoxia, and then of course their blood sugars would be out of control because everything happening in the body was going haywire. So then of course they add diabetes onto that because they were undiagnosed, because they didn't go to the doctor to get basic labs to be able to change their lifestyle. So this is what I was seeing, and I was tracking all of this. That did not sit well with my purpose. And so to answer your question, I was like becoming very clear that for years now, and I was trying to find a way and looking at what I was offering, I experienced so much not feeling like I was enough. Like, I'm not doing enough. I need to take another class. No, I need to go here and do this. I need to do that, because I felt like, do I really have value? Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty good at what I do as a nurse, and I'm like, I've done a lot of cool stuff and all this kind of thing. And my ego was starting to get a little bit more like, but then it was so much so that I didn't feel empowered to really step out and go, I have a lot to offer humanity. And then as I started to release those limiting beliefs, as you know, I do a lot of my own work. I've worked with amazing healers. I've worked with a team of people that, seen and unseen, that have really been able to like lift me up and go, look at all you have, look at what you're doing. Even if you're not like having your own business, I know that my presence in these hospitals stabilized a lot of things energetically. And same with a lot of the other beautiful souls that actually want to be there and be in service and really want to help. Let me tell you, there's hundreds and thousands of them, regardless of what their belief systems are. However, for me, I just felt like I could see the bigger picture, but I couldn't really just grasp it. When I grasped it, I'm like, oh, here it is. But then it was like, oh, okay, here it is. What do I do now? And so again, it was like asking spirit, asking my team, asking my founding fathers and mothers, like, what do I do with this? And then it was like, you have to step more and more away from this world that you were in. So I started to do that, excuse me, more and more this year. And as I started to do that, I started to really begin to embody what that is. And then things started opening up, like I think I started tapping into light language maybe 2 years ago now, not knowing what the hell I was doing. And then I was like, am I crazy? I'm seeing things. There's like beings and there's like all this stuff going on. And they're like, no. And so the guidance came in because I learned Shipibo, which is the traditional language of one of the indigenous cultures that I study plant medicine with. And I'm like, well, if I'm learning Shipibo, this is an ancient language of the plants. The plants teach you. Then why not light language? And then I'm like, okay, well, am I trying to copy? I always like have this silly little dialogue in my brain. I'm like, am I copying somebody else? Is this authentic? Is this
It's
good?
imposter syndrome. Everybody has it, I think. I do it all the
Yes.
time. I'm like, come on, I must have got this somewhere else. It's not me.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So then it was this like past 6 to 8 months, really beginning to work with clients one-on-one and embodying a little more and more. I had an accident last year and I had I'm recovering from a brain injury. There's still a little bit, but it was like, okay, universe is like, boom,
Stop what you're doing.
girl, enough.
Yep.
And then, I mean, I'm kind of stubborn like that, but it was a level of suffering, again. But I had, again, so much support and people that were there for me in ways that I could have never have imagined. And I was able to heal. And of course, through my own resource, because I'm pretty well resourced, I was able to do a little work here and there. And then, I am a part of a really great meditation group. It's a breathwork class through our beautiful friend, Brooklyn. I got to put a plug in for Brooklyn Rain. And, that's really been very helpful, that container, and being able to really bring online as well as my other practices. So what brought me here is just, the last year, I've been pretty much in a flow state of what's coming in and what is in the highest good. And so I just keep asking, what's in the highest good? What's in the highest good? What's in the highest good? Show me, give me clear direction, give me clear communication. Because how spirit, at least the guides that, and the teams that and collectives that I work with, they like to talk in riddles, and sometimes I'm like, okay, this doesn't make sense. Okay, but here you go, and I was finally able to understand what they were saying and, pertaining to me and what I was doing and where I was going. And as an original earth seeder, I work with the earth grids everywhere I go. I didn't really realize what I was doing up until, short time ago, maybe a year or so ago. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. And then I began to meet other people that were doing some similar work, and the importance of it, because this is what our body and our DNA is geared for.
Talk about that. How does that work?
Well, actually, just recently I have, actually last year during my Rose diet, this consciousness, feminine, gave me several downloads, and she has been urging me to write a book. And I started it. I haven't, it's a work in progress. And one of the things that I was being shown last year, and now being here and in the last couple of months, really downloading what our real genetic origination blueprint is. And I have a offering for a DNA activation. It's a light codex activation in which you can bring on through this activation and transmission The key team on that is Mary Magdalene and Yeshua, maybe Saint Germain and some other collectives, and bringing online our original DNA blueprint as we were prior to all this genetic manipulation and hybridization, which many believe. I know that there's a few people that do this, and the information that has been brought in has a lot to do with the transhuman agenda, and how, through not only this manipulation of our DNA, but really, and how they were able to do this, the people that have manipulated our DNA is like downloading and programming into our mind all these limiting beliefs. And these beliefs of scarcity, these beliefs of not enough, the big one is fear. And why this is so important is because that is what is feeding this current pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
That is what's feeding this inorganic frequency. And this is also how people are getting ill, because they let their defenses down, whether it's they're going to eat something, or they're with somebody, or they're in an environment where this is the overriding frequency. It could be in a house, it could be with someone else, it could be in a grocery store, it could be a TV show, what have you. This is the overriding frequency. And this is what is, I know, as you can see, if you can read between the lines when you look at the news and see that is what their agenda
Absolutely.
and strategy is. This is why I don't watch the news unless it's like natural disaster, like things I need to know. So, and so this activation that I'm sharing and a course that I'm building, it's a 6-week course. I mean, this was all downloaded. Actually, the download occurred already, but now I'm like, open the file and see what's inside. And it's a 6-week course where I'm calling it a living course, because it's not like a course that you're used to taking where you like open up a educational platform, and there's the thing all pretty pre-recorded, and there's slideshows and all this kind of stuff. It's not like that, because the transmissions happen during the time of like the class. And then I'll be bringing in information about just like the basics about genetics, not making it too heady, because I don't know, like a lot of people don't really know about what their own genetics are, and like, what a telomere is or whatever, So it's basically teaching people and bringing online in the quantum field all of their strands. So I was shown 24 strands is what we originally were. I'm hearing that there's 36, but we're going to work with the 24 because, that's what's available at this moment. And so if you imagine a quantum field, and if you like the regular model of the DNA, and then how it's like 2-strand with the little like ladder looking thing, and it's like all these little points and such. So it's like that, but 24. And I go into what it is, there's 12 that are actually more solid. And then there's a mirroring holographic field of another 12 that go into the quantum field, which connect to our original blueprint. It connects to all the gifts that we have. It's in direct correlation to our oversoul technology, and being able to have those access points to go into and access and bring in and integrate things of our genetics and our being that were already there. All these memories and all these dreams that we have when we go journaling or vision questing or anything like that, we're tapping into that. When we do plant medicine work, we're tapping into that.
So what might
It,
a person see when they activate all 24? What types of changes will you see occur in your life?
well, I mean, it- it's really unlimited. I mean, I wouldn't even know where to begin because it could really be something that helps cure a disease.
What have you
It,
seen in your life when activating the 24 strands?
it has allowed me to be able to be in the quantum field and be more comfortable there and be able to change realities, my own realities. And there's been quantum jumping. There's been,
Like, what
I
does that
mean,
look like?
well, like coming here, I mean, that was a total quantum jump. I mean, I had no, I was thinking about it because I have a friend that's here right now, and I know she was coming, and I couldn't commit to going because of my own limitations. Um, and then all of a sudden it happened, and then I had this journey here that was seemed to be really long, but I barely even remember it right now. It
Wow.
was like, and I have a lot of moments where I'm somewhere, and it could be in a dream state, it could be in a deep meditation state. And I mean, I realize that a lot of people can access this already, but what they're accessing is that deeper part of their genetics that takes them to those states. And like the monks and the Buddhas and all these amazing masters that are here and beyond, they access these portals, and they're portals. There's just like, it's just like if you were to pick up your phone and you wanted to go into Instagram, or if you wanted to reach a friend, and you're like, okay, I want to reach out to Allison and tell her XYZ. So then you open up your icon for the messages and you send a message, and then you receive it. It's the same thing, except without electronics. So a lot of us have these abilities, and it's not anything. There's a lot of children that are coming in right now that have these already activated.
Yeah.
And they're moving things, they're moving mountains, I don't know about teleporting just yet, maybe, but you can astral project. And astral projection, telepathy, teleportation, and all these other telekinesis and all these things, which we've been hearing about as like woo woo, it's not. It's really something like speaking or breathing or, feeling that connection with another soul when you meet them. Like as you see somebody and you're like, I don't know you, but I know you.
Yep.
It's like that. It's like that. Being able to digest food, being able to take food in as light,
Mhm.
because this is much of what I teach people in my programs is I teach people food as medicine. And I really stress that they, find local, and it doesn't have to say certified organic, because we all know we go to a local market. We want to be able to support the local farmers. And a lot of those farmers are very poor, like around here.
Yeah.
They don't use pesticides here. They don't use chemicals around here. And so all the food here grown in this area is so clean.
Mm.
It's so clean. So yeah, I mean, there's so much. I'm still uncovering
Yeah.
what it is that this program is about. And I'm like, wow, that's kind of really scientific. And I'm not a geneticist, and da 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 da. Like, aren't other people doing this? Why is I'm like
Yeah.
questioning, it's just like, and they're like, no, you just need to stay centered. You don't need to pay attention to anything else. You just stay in your lane and do this. And I'm like, okay.
That's the beauty of this journey. It's just constantly uncovering. It's so much fun, isn't it?
I know, it really is. It makes me laugh because I just, what makes me laugh is that they have a sense of humor, and even though they're like, sound like they're being very firm, actually they're just like very lighthearted with me too. I'm the one who's really hard on myself. you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about your journey in the Andes. What kinds of things are happening for you while you're there? What kinds of neat experiences are unfolding?
Yeah, well, I suggest that if people are going to come here, that they take a long time to come. Don't come for like a week, because it's going to take a week for most of us to acclimate to the altitude, because it's like more than 10,000 feet. And especially if you're coming from like closer to sea level or something, unless you're in Colorado, and then you might be okay. But I've basically been taking a lot of time to be with the land. I have my morning practices, I have my rituals. I take time and, this morning making a prayer to the land that I'm on, and really listening to what the mountains and the spirits here are trying to tell me, and how they're communicating with me, and what they want me to do, and tapping into what that is. Because is it like, are there just spirits here saying, okay, I want you to do this because of some other reason, because there's not been a lot of bloodshed here. I can usually really feel that, like, that's a certain signature energy they have in the temples, which there are ruins all around me here, higher up, which I'm going to be exploring. So I've not gone to any of the ruins. I've not gone to Machu Picchu yet, because at this moment, as we're doing this, I've been acclimating and really taking time and feeling into what is coming up for 2022. I mean, what I do the first 12 days of the year is really pivotal, because it's setting yourself up for the 12 months of the year. So I've been seeding a lot of things. I've been working on some projects and seeing what's going to drop in and what's in the highest divine alignment for me. And that's basically what I've been doing. I've been going to the market. I've been connecting with people and feeling into what's the flow here is like very chill. It's not like Lima or Cusco or the bigger cities. It's like a lot of small little towns, and there's like wide open spaces, and they're the mountain, we're in the valley, and there's like mountains around. And sometimes I'll wake up at like 3 a.m. and I'll look out the window, and there's like a face in the mountain glaring at me, not in a scary way, but just kind of like, I'm here. I'm like, so I'll do a prayer or just a bow of gratitude, and humbleness. And I'm just connecting right now with the energy here. And it's really palpable. It's really powerful. It's extremely expansive. It's providing me an opportunity to sit with what's the most authentic thing for me to like embrace, what's the most authentic thing for me to encounter and expand to, and really like allow for the things to come in and not have an agenda, And so that's what's beautiful about living in the country. The pace is slow. There is a lot of walking. There's a lot of walking, and just things take time. It's not like the US, where I need a person to come out here and do this now, or I need a call and this has me. No, it's not like that. It's like, and that's what our nervous systems need right now.
Right.
And, it's like, especially somebody like me and nurses, or people that do a lot of interacting with a lot of people and are in service. Like, we just, so that we can recharge, so that the things can come in and really just drop in and just sit with it for a little while, and not feel like the need to just go right in and like knock it out, like that very masculine. This is a very feminine part of the world. This is where the feminine is strongest, the divine feminine, and that sacredness of being with her in the land, and how the people honor each other and how the people take care of each other here, in this little quasi village, So
I'm curious, with the current restrictions and everything, how do you travel? Because I know you didn't take the jab.
correct.
And so what kinds of things are you having to maneuver around in regards to that?
Well, I'm gonna take a little sip of water. Drinking my salt water. I really sat with that. I knew getting the jab was not an option. Absolutely not. It's a whole other conversation.
Right.
Which is going to be on my podcast. So I had just asked my galactic assistants to show me what, how this was going to, how I can make this happen to avoid implantation. A lot of the PCR tests and antigen tests are nasal swabs. I've been hearing about ones that you can spit into a bag and do the thing, but that was inaccessible to me at the time. So, to come every country, which is kind of a little crazy, but Peru just recently changed their way to come in because they required the vaccine series or whatever. And then they changed it like literally the week that I was considering. That was like, I was being shown like the space that I'm in, like literally the mountains, and in my dreams and in my visions and in my meditations. And I'm like, okay, this is nice, but how am I going to get there? So anyway, so what started coming forth was information from different resources, from different people and doctors, and have researched immune stuff and all those things. So I started downloading, like literally physically downloading in my files, different protocols, different herbals, different things. And I just said, because I already do like immune support, and I do neti pot, which is the saltwater rinse. Mm-hmm. And I work with a plant medicine called Hepe, which is tobacco and has some different flavors, like lavender or mint or suni, the bark of the suni tree with the tobacco. And they grind this. It's a fine powder, and it's an insufflation. So you like, and you see a lot of indigenous people doing this. And so I do that as well. And so I feel like my pineal gland is pretty, and my, all these connection points are pretty well, pretty healthy. So I definitely was not thrilled. And I'm like, well, if it's in my highest good to do this, then I need to be shown a way to be able to support and, shield myself from implantations and potentially transmitting the virus, because that's what I'm hearing a lot of these swabs will do. So I found some really amazing plants and remedies and things that felt energetically in alignment. And I began to do that a few days before. And I know as I work on this protocol, I'm going to be building an ebook, because I've had several of my friends ask me about it. And it's really kind of long to go into. But generally what it is to be working with your nose and, shielding that pineal gland with like colloidal silver there. And I don't have the bottle with me, but there's a colloidal silver blend that has echinacea and oregano, which are amazing immune. And the colloidal silver provides a shielding. And I, also doing the nasal rinse with the neti pot a couple times a day to keep all those passages clear. And to do the other thing that I did was, so I was putting just plain colloidal silver in my nose a couple times a day, like especially leading up to the test. And then that day I took, I've been reading about Provodone iodine, which is used in the hospitals, and it's a powerful antivirus, microbial, herbicide. It's just like covers all the genres of transmission of pathogens. And so they use that to clean wounds and things like that. And they use it in surgery and things like that, that red kind of thing. So I had some swabs, and I took a Q-tip and I moistened the tip of it. And then I just swabbed the inside of my nose with it too. So I was doing these things throughout the day. And because the other thing that is kind of crazy about these swabs and testing is that there's a lot of false positives because it helps their numbers. Right. So the more, even though you have no symptoms, or if you had a cold, it wasn't that, it was just, a regular viral cold, which I had a really powerful transmission and clearing and such the beginning of December. And so I had like a little bit of stuffiness, a little bit of fatigue, not really a cough, but I was relatively okay, and so I got through that. And so I was like, if this is going to happen, then I need to make sure that there's no false positive, that I don't get implanted, nor do I get any transmitted of anything either. Right. So I was asking my assistants, my galactic assistants, as I call them, what do I got to do? So this is kind of the basics of what I came up with. And my PCR was negative. So, whatever that's worth. So right. I had what I needed. After the swab, I immediately went back to my van. I rinsed, I put more colloidal silver. And then later that night I did the neti pot. And then the following days, I made sure I was putting colloidal silver. So if you're, again, in this book, I'll have pictures of the products that I use. I'm not endorsing these products. I also want to go on record by saying that I am not a doctor. I am a registered nurse, and anything that is said does not have any scientific data other than the data that is backed up by each individual product. This protocol is only something that I have worked with that has worked for me. I cannot guarantee anyone that they will either not get implanted, not get a virus, or the PCR won't come up positive. So people have to take agency for themselves. I'm here to inform and educate and provide what I know is helpful and as a good source, but I'm not a doctor, and that is my disclaimer. If you have medical questions, you need to go see your provider. Okay, that's my disclaimer. It worked. Right. Okay, so I have to do that legally because that way, people don't try to say whatever. So,
well, before we go, is there any kind of, would you like to do some light language? Would you like to do an activation? Are you being guided or drawn to do anything to share with all of us?
Sure. Yeah, I can do a little. See, let's see what comes through.
Okay.
Let's see what comes through. So for those on the replay or watching live, just dropping in, taking a few breaths and just dropping into your body, allowing yourself to be open and letting your body feel heavy, supported by whatever is underneath you, cushions, chairs. Just taking some deep breaths. I'd like to thank the energies and angels and guides that were here to bring forth this information. May it reach the hearts and minds of all who come here, and may it serve you in your highest good. Seeing above you a beautiful stream of golden white light coming in through the divine portals of Source. And what's coming through is the Council of Light come in to say that we are here in support to all of humanity, and knowing that there is no right or wrong way of being or existing in this here now time. Know that your heart is the most important aspect of your human incarnation and how you connect to all those around you. The heart frequency is the gateway to knowing who and where and why. The who and where and why are not always what is the most important thing, but what is felt in the moment when we have connections with others. We come to you in support in saying that the galactic support and all the unseen forces are always there and available to each and every one of you. And as you further deepen your desires to connect with what is truth, you will see that it is not something to strive for. It is not something that is a struggle to attain or to be or to understand. The understanding is a force that is originating from the mind. When we can set aside the mind, Mary Magdalene coming in through, when we can set aside the mind and be in the softest place, that softest place is often where we do nothing. This is something that is often difficult for the humans to do because we are always in this place of moving, making choices, decisions, and oftentimes decisions being made in haste and not being made in a place of what is in service to the highest good of your soul and for the souls in which come into your presence. It is not always the act of doing that is of the most satisfaction, but it is a place where the other soul can feel what it is that it comes from the deepest, most genuine part of your hearts. This is how we communicated with our intention of our heart, which brought us into the portals of all of the strands of the DNA that this human is speaking about, that we are bringing this transmission to you now. This transmission, if you can imagine, the holographic field of source potential, the womb of all potential that exists between the planes of the earth and the galactic, bringing online the places of the strands of your DNA that is quiet right now. It is only quiet because we have not asked it to awaken and come online, to come into alignment of the technology of your oversoul. And as Yeshua and I, Mary Magdalene, came into this earth, we came in as a single pod, neither male nor female as an incarnation in human form, but we came in as one source, perfect divine masculine and perfect divine feminine. And here is a opportunity to feel what it is to have whatever available genetic material to come online for you now. Hanotuai kua sunino ku uanai. Hi manashu kua sai nito. O to o ku amanati oka. I uana sai a ku uaishi. Tu. Hono anai awa kwa. Ho anoi onoi minato. Hamano o oai asuana si uko. Taking that information in through your heart, dear ones. And for a moment, just being with it and allowing it to unravel in whatever way is best serving you in this moment. We thank you, we bless you, and we love you. Now returning back to your bodies, wiggling your feet and your fingers and just allowing yourself to land back into the space. Taking a breath and opening your eyes when you are ready. Thank you.
Wow. That was so beautiful. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
That light language is very powerful.
Thank you.
Well, my dear, it's going to be a great day.
Indeed.
So let folks know where they can find you, and I will also post that below. So with links.
So right now I am in the process of changing my website and I'm moving platforms. So the best way to get a hold of me is you can message me on IG. I'm _cosmic nurse on there. My podcast is launching in a couple of weeks, 2/2/2022. And that will be on YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes. And also you can email me at rosie.go2mecca@gmail. And as soon as I get my website's pretty much almost ready. So I'm imagining in the next couple of weeks, it'll be available and for people to go and book sessions with me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we'll add that in as soon as you get it done.
Great.
All right, my dear. I would love to have you on again.
I would love that.
So much beautiful information that you have to share with everyone. So thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining. Please like and subscribe. And you have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.